step-by-step learning as far as Excel goes, step-by-step, inception, so that we can clearly use Excel up to a level where BA could have been used, right? There are certain difficult topics within Excel also. Excel is really great spreadsheet type of tool. They call it spreadsheet overall. We can call it a table, and that's how overall database concept has been evolved. We used to use something called a Lotus sheets earlier in those days. Whenever we don't have Excel, Word, and all, we used to have Word Star. Means whenever I started my IT career in 94, even in graduation also, during graduation we used to use something called Word Star as an for documentation, and Lotus sheets as in for Excel type of stuff. So these two are most prominent as far as any computer users go. So you should have Microsoft Word and Excel. Nowadays these are the most advanced documentation styles we use, documentation tools we use, and I believe on every computer we find those, right? So it's a ease of use, and it's also matured, and it's also evolved in terms of various adaptation, in terms of various functionalities they try to pip in without actual programming. But yes, there are some programming extension also, so you can have something like macro program, that's how they call it. Okay, we'll have a look at that, what you mean by macro programming, how we can leverage those things as well. Yes, we all have Excel, so it's a cost effective, we don't have to pay a single penny extra. It's a kind of overall gives a great tool for ad hoc analysis. It's not kind of crunch or do analysis in a progressive way, the way software programming works, right? But we will try to do a ad hoc kind of programming, or ad hoc kind of, what I'll say, overall ad hoc sheet progressions day in day out. That's how I'll describe it. Let's have a look at it basically, so that we can understand in depth in terms of how we are where we are stand, and how we can progress ourselves, right? And let's do it step by step, so that everybody can be a part of it, and we can learn in get great depth, because I think this is another most crucial tools as in business analyst we will use day in day out. I might not be the right person to give you exact example in this, because this mostly used by presenting your data, presenting your facts as in they comes to you. So if I want to, let's say, submit a proposal for choosing Philips iris scanner over Sony iris scanner, right? We discussed in a very standard example, because Philips and iris scanner normally scans 95% of the eyes. Only with light blue eyes, Philips iris scanner has a problem, so we normally choose Sony iris scanner, which is 4 times this cost. So I need to go to management, wherever I can suggest them, have one Philips scanner, have 3 Philips scanner and 1 Sony scanner within those 4 doors, whatever we have as far as state farm scenario goes. So this is how I interpret these things. But this is the most simplest example I can give it to you right now. We need to go in depth in terms of understanding what are the options I am supporting in a given scenario, why I am supporting those. So even I need to include my thought process. I need to really explain it to the team, really explain it to the dignitaries in my project initiation meetings, so that they will understand why I chose these options. And how do you present those data? Through Excel, through some good tables, through pie chart, through bar charts. There are 6-7 type of charts available. We'll have a look at those individually. There are pivot tables. Pivot tables are basically kind of what I can say, tables which changes depending on the data you enter, depending on the how Excel sheets get updated by itself. So you can have all those pivot tables are kind of, you can say, pre-programmed table. So what is the programming here? We'll try to write some macros in a shortest possible span. This is not a necessary as of now, because pivot tables are a bit complex in terms of if you're not used to these technicalities. So just have a look at it as an third party analysis tool, and try to understand. If you can, well and good. If no, please don't worry, because on the job you might not need pivot tables, and if at all you need, I'll be there to share you out. I'll be there to even update your Excel sheet and send back to you in case to present these pivot tables in some way or the other. So please don't worry on that part. Only try to understand what is pivot table, why and how we normally use Excel, right? And yes, Excel used overall worldwide. So we have many language dependent Microsoft Offices. There were, we can use fonts even for various Indian languages. We have, fonts release, and we use Excel via those fonts. But through Windows 10, they have made the Windows also language dependent. So we have quite a few multilingual Windows 10 installation over the various systems nowadays. So you can choose whatever language you want to use, and we can adapt to those cultures depending on the linguistics we choose, and that's how they've tweaked this software for a local use as well. Then yes, we have many interoperability with other system, like you can just copy the Excel table in the presentation. We'll have a look at that as well. And you can also keep those formulas working, keep those good looking pie charts, so that you can create the graphs and pie charts in Excel, and copy it to the Microsoft PowerPoint as well. So it's ready for presentation, right? And yes, these are really what you can say, as we know, all these laptops and desktop, they normally come with pre-installed MS Office, so it's really cheap, it's really cost effective. So that way even the CEOs, CFOs of the world, they also try to go on working with Excel. So Excel is one of the most prominent tools we will be using as in whenever we start our BA job. In case wherever you want to present your data in a scenario where you have chosen some option and need to present them, why and why not, those kind of scenario. Does that make sense? Anybody have any question for me at this moment?
No.
It's a simple, right?
Yes. Yeah. Pretty basic. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go ahead. So there are a couple of options to Excel if you are not using Excel. Like if you're using something like embedded system, like Raspberry Pi, if you heard of, these are small computers. Arindo, these are small micro space processor based computer we normally attach to our TV. So over there we use some tool called Libre. So there is a Libre worksheet. It's like LibreOffice. So the Libre worksheets, that's another thing which is almost similar to Microsoft Excel. So please don't worry, and I don't think you'll be using this thing Libre. But if I'm a vivid user of Libre, so I can guide you on that. It's a free of cost. For Microsoft Office, if you look at the licensing, it costs around, I think, $800 license. But if you look at Libre, it comes free. So many new users, or those guys who work on something like Linux and those operating system, they use Libre because it's compatible with the open system. That's how it's evolved till date. It's one of the good tool. Means if you and we can have a session on Libre as well. But if it's not needed, let's skip right now, and we can learn whenever there's a need arises. So that's how I look at it, right? And yes, we are going to work on something like pivot tables. We are going to understand how we can build a trends for the given data. How can we plot this trend in different graphs and chart and then present it. Even we will learn how to sort and filter data depending on the choice we make, and we'll of course learn how to create various charts and graph, right? Let's go a step ahead. I have shared some video with you, right? Let's have okay, yes. As far as career progression goes, the more you learn Excel, the more easier for you to present data, the more easier for you to analyze data automatically. So whenever the data changes, the Excel does change on its own depending on the data, right? So these kind of scenarios can be easily extrapolated being an analyst as in data scientist, because these are some scientific things which we can do automatically with Excel, and that's how Excel's progression or learning is really crucial for a given day-to-day life for a business analyst, so that they can present these things effectively within the meeting, and try to explain everybody why not, and those kind of scenario, right? So let's try to understand how Excel works, as far as typical how Excel supports to a typical BA. Let's try to understand from this video, business analyst tools, right? Yeah, let me open this thing for you. uh, no, this is right. Business analyst tools. Wait a minute. Hmm. He is going to talk about couple of tools so that we could understand what are the different tools are normally used by business analysts. And let's try to focus on Excel right now. We also use something like Visio, which we'll discuss. These are most generic, what you can say, even Visio includes in Microsoft Office as an add-on, but it's a diagramming tool which Microsoft Office use in case of like we see lucid chart. So there are some pre-formatted template in Visio. We'll have a look at Visio also afterwards, but let's try to understand how this various tools which we could leverage in our analyst day-to-day life.
And as a generalist BA, what I want to do is I want to talk you through.
Could you hear him?
Yes.
How I think about my own tools and what kind of tools I actually use in my day-to-day work when I'm working for my clients. Just a little bit of history on the types of requirements management tools that have existed and how you should actually think through what kind of tools you should be learning. And so when we talk about tools, this really has to do with the things that you use on a day-to-day basis to produce the artifacts of a business analyst.
Can you please increase the volume, I guess?
Enterprise systems like SAP or Oracle knowledge,
that's the max this guy have.
Systems knowledge. These are strictly just the tools that we have at our disposal to.
Don't worry, I'll share the video afterwards.
Yeah, thanks.
Now, historically, in the late 2000s, there was a huge push from a lot of software companies to try to build out requirements management tools. And many of those tools have, generally speaking, failed. So many employers who hire business analysts have realized that a lot of the software tools that they used to buy, a lot of requirements management software tools that they used to buy, are either too restrictive or they are too cumbersome for the needs that they have. So what you'll notice is that in a lot of job postings that you see is that most employers will expect you to have a lot of knowledge with Microsoft Office tools, okay? And the reason for that is that the combination of using Microsoft Visio, Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, in some cases Microsoft Access, and PowerPoint, if you learn how to master those tools, you're going to have all of the basics that you need to be able to actually do the work of a BA to produce a lot of the deliverables that business analysts use. The important thing is in how you actually learn to use those tools. You need to make sure that you master them and that you're using them in a way where you can produce artifacts very, very quickly. And I'll show you an example of how I actually use Visio to do this in a minute. But basically, in terms of the types of tools that you want to invest in, very basic. Keep it as simple as possible, unless the employer that you have, the target employer that you want to work for, is asking you to have very specific tools. So for some of the examples there would be, you might see, for example, some companies will ask you to have some experience with Jira or with, I think there's a piece of software called HP Service Center, right? These pieces of software help the companies to manage the workload. So they're more like project management software. So those types of tools, once you learn how to use one, Asana, for example, is another one that actually companies use. But once you learn how to use that class of software, they're more or less the same. You just need to get yourself familiar with how certain types of project management software work. But those tools are not really centered around helping you produce your artifacts, right? The tools that help you produce your artifacts, the main one is Microsoft Visio. If I was to encourage you to learn any one tool inside out, it would be Microsoft Visio. And I'll show you in a second why I talk about why I encourage people to learn Microsoft Visio. The second tool that I encourage everyone to learn really is are the basics. Microsoft Word is critical. Okay, so if you learn how to use Microsoft Visio and Microsoft Word, you probably have a good 80% of the tools that you actually need to produce a lot of the artifacts that you're going to be expected to produce, right? Very simple. Excel would probably be the next one on the list, and then I would say SharePoint is one that a lot of companies use, but SharePoint's not something that you would have access to unless you actually get into the office and you get your SharePoint access. That's enterprise class software that isn't normally available to individuals. So I would say keep the tools very, very basic. Learn how to master Visio, learn how to master Microsoft Word and Excel, and use those tools use those very basic tools, but sharpen up your actual business analysis skills. And so it's way more important in how you actually use these tools than what tools you actually use. Okay, and what I mean by that is that behind me here, I have an example of a Visio document, and this is the document that I'm actually using to produce one of our courses. So you'll see some of these diagrams in future courses that we offer. But the important lesson here is in how I actually use this tool. So in many cases, you'll see people using Microsoft Visio and having tabs across the bottom and having basically one diagram per tab. That's not an effective way of using it. The way that I use Microsoft Visio is that what I do is I create one gigantic canvas, okay? And instead of having multiple different tabs, what I do is I put all of my artifacts on one canvas. And that difference might not seem like it's a big difference, but when you're in a workshop and you have a set of people sitting in front of you, many of which are very senior people whose time is very important, you want to make sure that you are not being clunky with the tools that you use. And so when somebody asks you a question of a certain artifact, you can't afford, right in under that pressure, you have 10, 15 different eyes looking at you. You can't afford to start clicking through all of the different tabs and trying to figure out which diagram you need to show to your stakeholders just to answer one question. That is a very ineffective way of doing things, because what you'll do in that workshop is you'll start to lose the attention of many of the people, because they're saying, well, we're sitting here waiting for you to now search through stuff just to answer the one question, and we have 5 or 10 other questions that are coming up.
I personally believe tabs do, make you more disciplined, in a sense, you can categorize such designs or, such tables or a sheet or a data, so that by clicking it, you are more organized. But yes, there could be no contradiction with whatever I think, whatever he thinks, and so on and so forth. So it's basically your personality also at a play here. So the more organized you feel, your feeling is important, because you have to present in that confidence, right? So your feeling is much more important than what I say, what or he says. Let's not create contradictions. Let's try to do our best in a scenario where we can present it to the best scenario, and we'll have a look at it whenever we do some practical. Okay, so please don't worry on how he says, just try to understand the meaning or relevance of a tool. Okay,
doing things in this way, putting everything on one canvas and then figuring out how to navigate from one diagram to another diagram in the way I'll demonstrate for you in a second, that is a huge benefit to your skill set, right? The tool is very simple, but it's in how I've taught myself how to use the tool that makes me very effective in workshops and very effective in very high pressure situations. So for example, let's say I wanted to talk about a diagram that is a to-be process flow. I know exactly the way that I've oriented myself with this is I know exactly where that tool is on this gigantic canvas, and I've taught myself how to actually zoom right in, specifically right into that diagram, and to talk about this as much as I need to be able to answer a question or to be able to handle an issue. And when somebody asks a question about a completely different element of what it is that I'm producing, all I do is, instead of just clicking along the bottom to try to find what I need, all I would do, let's say, for example, I needed to look at the entity model that we need to discuss. I would very quickly zoom out. I would go over to it, and I would just put it up very quickly. Zero time wasted. Everybody's attention is still on the board, and everybody's still engaged in that meeting, right? Now, if it was to take me 30 seconds and I'm basically wasting the attention of 15 different people clicking, trying to find something that I need, if I have to do that over and over and over again, that builds up over the course of an hour or a 2-hour meeting. That builds up, and a lot of people will become frustrated and a little bit annoyed with you, and you'll start to lose the engagement of people. People won't be paying attention. They'll be doing other things. Their attention's going to dissipate. And so a very simple tool, Microsoft Visio, master it. Okay, and if you need tips, if you want to learn how to do things the way that I do with Visio, I'm willing to teach you. That's not a problem, just ask. But you have to make sure that you use your tools in a way where it's very, very effective. Keep your tool set as simple as humanly possible. When it comes to Microsoft Word, for example, again, very, very simple. All I do is I have all of my scope documents, all of the detailed requirements and functional specification documents that I produce are usually all in Microsoft Word. And with a combination of Word and Visio that I use, let me pull up our requirements document here, sample requirements document. If I was to scroll down a little bit, you'll see that much of the diagrams that I had produced in my Visio file now exists inside of my Word document, right? And so what I do is I do a lot of my modeling, and when I'm presenting to people and I'm on workshops, I usually use Visio. But when I need to put things into a document that's going to require client sign off, I don't send them a Visio file. What I do is I write it all out in a requirements document. I paste in the diagrams that we've already all discussed and agreed to, and I send out the Word document for sign off, right? Very simple. So that's how I, as a generalist BA, use the tools. I would love to hear about anybody who has works in a specialty environment that has specific tools that they use, about what their experiences are like. But as a generalist BA, I keep things as simple as possible. And what I do is I try to learn how to be as effective as humanly possible with the very simple tools that I have. So I hope that that helps to answer the question. And I'm looking forward to seeing what other people do.
Okay. So I believe he was more on Visio than on Excel, but let's try to understand how Excel works for us. Let's try to understand. Let me try open up Excel for you. Blank worksheets. Okay. Okay. Let me share this thing. Could you see my Excel screen? This is how it looks whenever you click that Excel icon on your desktop, or go to programs and click there, right? So these are what they call templates. These are the documents which I was working on previously. So this is I normally go for a blank workbook. So this is what you call blank workbook. This is how they call workbook. This is one sheet. I can add as many sheets as I want, and that guy was talking about this tab. Okay. Now let's try to understand how we label these things, because this is what all we're going to work on. This is what you call worksheet. This is another worksheet. I can rename this worksheet as an, let's say, BA batch 2. I can name whatever I want, and so on and so forth, right? Now let's try to understand the elements of Excel, because we're going to refer it by the way the technical people do. So this is what you call row. So when I click on 10, the row 10 got selected, right? When I click on 5, when I click on 6, the row 6 got selected. Now if I want to color it, I just go to this bucket thing. I'll choose whatever color I want to do it, and I can do it bucket color. Okay. Now this is what you call column. E is my column. This is my record. Means if you go to typical IT person, he'll say you row is a record. Could we relate this thing? Have you ever come across such labeling?
No.
Okay, so these are the few things which we need to remember. So 6 is my 6th record. E is my column. Column means this is a particular type of data or a category of data. Okay, let's try to create something. Let's try to create something like name and address kind of scenario. So let's say I have first name. Now if I want to adjust the width with these things, I'll just double click this guy. Oh man, it's not happening. So you can pull it out the way you want, like this. Then I'll give SE. Second name. I'll again increase the width like this. Then I can go to something like phone number, then date or birth date, whatever you want to call it. Then I can go to something like address. Now these are what I call heading or category of a data. So normally I put all my categories in the first row. So my first record, I've just copied it and pasted it there. So how do you copy it? Select it. Okay, do Control C, or you can right click here and say copy. Right click where you want to paste and say paste. When you say paste, you get all these things. Just say okay. There are various options while you paste this thing. Let's try to understand. This is a paste as it is. There are something values. If you can align it to a numbers, there are some functionalities or formulas you can apply to it. You can transpose row to column. You can have formatting, as in when if you have some pre-formatted things, or paste a link from a website as well. So these are all things you can paste it here. Okay, let's try to understand, and let's try to go step by step. So if I don't want, I'll select this row and I'll say delete. The complete row got deleted. Same thing, this thing delete. Now again, let's learn a bit of formatting. If I want to format this thing, I'll select this. As I told you, I want to have a light blue color. I had light blue color. Now I want to have this thing, bold. So there's a B here. So I can say B. So this is called bold. Then I can do a center, right? Could you see the, change when I say, center?
Yes.
Everything moved to center, right? So if you, draw it bigger, these are all centralized labels now. Now, if I say, let's say, Ravindra, then, let's insert. I can insert today's date by default. So if I go to insert, and there are, where's the date? Could you see date? That should be somewhere here. No? Okay. Now, by default, Excel uses American format of date. So, MMDDYY. So, today is 1st January, 11 January 21. Okay. Now, I'll press enter. Oh, come on. What happened? Okay. Now, he has taken this date. And then address. Mumbai, India, right? Now let's give this, record number 1. So this is my first record. I can do a centralize with a column also. Okay. I believe you might have learned all these things before, or you might have done all these things before. I can centralize each and every data. Means, make it center in a column. Now again, let's try to understand what you mean by formatting. If I want to format this date, I go here, I'll do a right click, the other mouse button click, okay, and I'll go to something like format cell. Okay, intersection of column and row is a cell. It's a unique data, right? Because when I talked about date, this date is corresponds to the first record date. So I'll say format cell. Now see what are the options I got normally. Format set, I can select from these categories. So I have these categories of pre-formatting cells which I can do. If I want to choose this one, so what it says, Monday, January 11, 2021. That's how it'll get updated like this. See, okay, now the column is shorter for this data I have selected, so I have to elongate it. So this is how. So I have just keyed in a date, and that Excel itself in the background can understand, can analyze what day it is, and even I can include time and everything also. So there are some choices available for time also. Okay, so here, then I can put times whatever I want. So this is 9 p.m., right? So 9 is, I normally go by 24 hours, but let's say 9 p.m. Simple. Any difficulty in understanding this till this point? I believe you all have done this before, but let's do, just to, make the, conversation more interesting, conversation more technical. So I have inserted a record at number 2, row number 2, with the, first name as Ravindra. Does that make sense? Anybody have any confusion at this moment?
No, sir.
No.
Okay, great. Now let's go a bit ahead. Now if I want to copy this cell, I'll just select this cell and I'll just pull this, checkbox. So I have all the record copied. Now if I want to have second one, Sailesh, I can add whatever I want to add. Now, if I want to create a data of just pandas only, I'll do something like this. Oh, pardon me for the typing and everything. Oh man, sorry. Okay, so what I'm trying to do here, and these I don't need, so I'll just these delete. So select and just say delete, as simple as that. Now what happened, he increased the day whenever I pull down, right? So this is a sequential increased one by one. He have also increased the last number, so he have increased whenever I pull down. All numeric values get extended or get to the next step. Okay, try doing these things at home so that you'll understand how Excel works. Now all these things, if I go here and if I want to add all these things, what I'll do, I'll say equal to SUM sum. You can see these things, the pop-up down, these are called balloon help. So this is how the functionality is inbuilt. We are doing programming in Excel. This is how programming works. Now I have to start curly brace. Now he wants a number 1 to number 2. So what I'll do, that's a D column and row 2, right? So I'll say D column, D2. You can see the, this got selected, and then I'll put a colon and I'll say D8 or D7 and I'll close the brace. You can see the selection. I'll just make it a bigger. You can do it. Oh, sorry. So what I did here, I have inserted this formula. Could you see this formula? Oh, sorry. Can anyone see this?
Yeah.
Equal to sum D column D7. So what it did, it tried to did a summation of these are the cell phone numbers, but I have just tried to add this thing together. It doesn't make any sense. I'm just trying to explain you how Excel works. Okay, so please don't go by whatever they there on the screen. Just try to understand how we can do it. And this is a simple click. And you can try this thing. It has calculator inbuilt, it has a sequential inbuilt, so there are quite a few background services which are included in Excel, so that this is what the spreadsheet software is all about. Now let's try to understand. If I want to label, or if I want to number all these row, what I'll do, I'll say 1 2 and just pull it out. So I have 7 records in my spreadsheet called BA batch 2. These are all pandas. Then I can all other surnames, right? Okay, so try to play around like this. So this is a record, this is a data, this is a unit data entity. Okay, so 5th record, first name was Suhas. Okay, anybody have any confusion on this?
No, sir.
I'm okay.
Great. So also you can give whatever color you want to give. There are some pre-formatted coloring tables also. If you want to have, say, if you want to go to format, see, you can have these row height, row this thing, and there are some you can protect sheet, format sheet, and there are pre-formatted styles as well. So I can have something like this, I can have something like this, or I can have all these type of colors which are basically selected by default. Even I have, if I want to have something like these table borders, right? So I'll give a table border. So all borders. This is how I can do in a click, rather than drawing this thing. If I want to draw this thing in Word, it takes not ages, it takes at least 10-15 minutes. But in Excel, it's ready-made for you, and you can apply all these formulas. Okay, so we'll have a look at this formula as well, so that we could do these things effectively. Okay, there's a video for this. Let me get the name of the video. Essential Excel shortcuts.
You had
okay.
put it on the last week on the group, and that's really a pretty much very
Yes,
good
yes.
video.
But let's what I can say, have a look at it again, so that we can understand. And if you have any questions, we can basically discuss it out as well. It's a small video of some 12 minutes or so. I know Leena ma'am, you have used Excel extensively, most probably for your business and those things. But I believe Madhuri ji, she is
No,
still
I
learning.
did not actually. I mean, we have no nothing to do with this Excel thing, the
Okay,
window
okay.
for business
But yes,
review.
you can do. And
But
let me
that
tell you.
video was helpful, which you
Yes,
sent.
yes. And what we'll normally do, we normally create an expense sheet for myself. So what are the expense I did in last month, last 2-3 months, I try to collect it all together and try to extrapolate it for this month. That's how we normally do. So we can
Okay.
understand the trend analysis and all. We'll do that thing. Means that be a kind of homework for you. So that we
Okay.
understand this record, this, data entity, table, column, and those selection thing. Okay.
Okay.
Let me share that video with you. And if you have any question, please feel free to ask so that we can learn in great depth with this Excel essential shortcuts.
So, business analyst, most likely you'll be spending a lot of time on Excel, and it will be extremely important for you to increase your efficiency with this tool. And there are actually two ways to do it. So one way is to know the right formula, and the second one is
No, we
know
can't hear
formulas.
properly.
And
Come again, please.
Can't hear properly.
Arey? But the volume is full. I don't know. There might be some network issue. Let's
in
see.
this short movie, I'll talk about 7 essential shortcuts you should master. So I'll show you how to select rows with shortcuts, how to remove rows and columns, group them. Then I'll show you how to move fast around the Excel, how to add hyperlinks, how to see formulas at once, and last but not least, how to reach the menu with shortcuts. Enjoy the movie, and if you want to see more tips, have a look at my online course. You will have the link in the description of the movie, and subscribe to my online channel. In many cases, you would like to work with an entire row or entire column, or even a selection of columns. And for this, we also have shortcuts, which are extremely useful once you're working with a big file or you're doing a lot.
See, this is kind of table we normally create. Okay, so we have something like a cost attached to some sales leads, and then some regions, and some names where the sales leads are coming. Then some overall the EU, I mean euros to customer kind of ratios. So he is trying to guide in terms of how his sales thing is planned, and how he's basically trying to track the overall marketing efficiency. That's what he labeled this Excel sheet as. Then if you look at the overall these are the different sheets he have. These are what called name of the sheets, right? And as I told, these are the records. These are the categories of record. Like cost is a category of record. The record first is at row 11. Could you understand the difference? Record the row. These are important, because whenever we work with Excel, whenever you explain Excel to somebody might tell you, could you explain the row 3? So row 3 is third row. There's nothing in row 3. But if somebody says, could you explain the third record is this one, the 13th number. Okay, so there are certain whenever we talk in terms of technicality, these are the few things, because these are the header rows, right? Could you understand the header and the actual content? These are the few things which we need to understand, and total is basically the summation. I believe the 20th row is the total. So we are trying to analyze this data. So the data starts from 11th C. So column C, 11. So this intersection is my first record start. Okay, and then I have these records. They go up to M. 11th M is my first record, M, end. Okay, and that's how I have created this Excel sheet. And that's how I explain the overall construction of an Excel sheet to each and everybody. If somebody wants to speak, or somebody want to explain, or try to go or relate to a particular entity within this table. Okay, let's try to understand.
Business model. So here, for example, we can try to change the formatting of the last cell, which is the total. So if I wanted to select the entire row, it's enough to press Shift Space. And then I can perform the other actions on this. So for example, change it from bold to normal, or change to underline. As you can see, we can do it faster. If I wanted to select more things, then why I have done this. So first you do the Shift Space, and then you still keep the Shift pressed, and then you move with the arrows up,
if I wanted to get something which are above, and down if it's something below. I can also press the control while holding the shift, and then I basically would get all the, as you can see, all the rows. So in this way, we can take all of them and then, for example, change the formatting to bold everywhere, or simply remove them, for example, like this. So this you can do with the shortcut. So again, shift space to select one. And then if you want to select more, then you keep the shift and then you use the up and down arrow. You can also do it the other way around. So start with selecting shift and upper or lower arrow, the rows, and then pressing the space, so shift space. And then this is how you select the entire rows. With the columns, it's exactly the same. The only thing which is differs is the shortcuts we use. So for the row, we used shift space, and for the column, you use control space. So you press control space, then you, by keeping the shift with the left or right arrow, you can select the rows and again perform any operations you would like them to have. So as you can see, it's very fast because I can do in instance all the movements. So for the column, you press control space, and then if you want to have more columns selected, you press shift and then the right or left arrow. And for the row, you press shift space. And if you want to get more rows, then you press the shift and then play with the arrows. Let's make a small recap. So to select an entire row, you press shift and space for both PC and Apple. Then if you want to select more, you keep the shift pressed and then you use the arrows up or down. For the getting the entire column, you press control space. And to get more columns, you keep the shift and you play with the arrows right or left. Now it's time to see how we can add and remove rows and columns. It will build upon the last lecture when we learned how to select entire row or entire column. So if I would like to add a row, then I have to first select the entire row, so shift space, and then you press control shift plus. One more time. So you select the row by pressing shift space and then control shift plus. If you would like to remove the row, it's almost exactly the same. So first you select the entire row, so shift space, and then you press control minus, and we have removed the entire row. So one more time, I'm pressing shift and space to select the entire row and then control minus to remove it. We do almost the same with the column. So first we have to select the column, the entire column. So I press control space, and then to add exactly the same as we did for the row, so control shift plus. So again, control space to select the entire column, and then control shift plus to add new column. In order to remove relatively the same manner, so again I have to select the entire column, so control space and then control minus to remove it. As you can see, this is how we done. Let's make a short recap on how you can add columns and remove them. So adding columns and rows is done in two steps. So in the first one, I press shift and space to select the entire row, both in PC and Mac, and then control shift plus to add the new row. If I would like to do the same for the column, I first have to select, so control space, and then control shift plus to add it. So as you can see, for adding the row and adding the column, the second step is the same. And it's relatively easy to copy it for removing the rows. So the first step is selecting the row, so shift space, and control minus removing it, both for the PC and exactly the same formats we have for Mac. For columns, again, control space to select the column and then control minus to remove it. The same goes for Mac. And as you can see, the second step here and here, so for the row and column is exactly the same. So control minus for removing the entire column or entire row. Quite often you like to group rows or columns in one, so make them less visible, and to use the top-down approach. So for example, in the sheets here, you have the rows I would like to group somehow. And there is a very nice shortcut to do this. It will be a 3-step attempt. So first you have to select an entire row, so shift space. Then you keep the shift pressed and then you use the arrows. So here I would use the down arrow, and last step in grouping them would be pressing shift alt and then arrow to the right. So like this. And as you can see, we have grouped it very fast. Let's do it also here. So shift space, then we keep the shift, we go with the arrow down, and then we press shift alt and then the arrow to the right. And as you can see, it's grouped, so we can go back and forth. Ungrouping is very easy. So again, we have to select the rows we want to ungroup. We press the shift space to select the entire row. Then we, again, by keeping shift, move with the arrow down. And then now instead of keeping the arrow to the right, we press shift alt and then the arrow to the left. And we have removed. Right is adding and left is removing. Now I have still pressed shift alt and I can play with the arrows to the right and to the left. You can do exactly the same with the columns. So for example, let's assume that we want to group the column E and F. So again, I have to select the entire column. So I press Control space. I've selected. Now I keep shift pressed and then I use the arrow to the right. And then I press shift alt and then the arrow to the right. And as you can see, we have managed to group those columns. And again, if I'm to ungroup them, I press shift alt and then the arrow to the left. So to the right, grouping, and then to the left, ungrouping, provided obviously that you have pressed at the same time shift and alt. So again, for the column, you press Control space, then you press shift and then the arrow to the right, and shift alt, and again to the right to group it, and shift alt and the arrow to the left to ungroup it. So let's make a short recap on grouping and ungrouping. So if you want to group the rows, you should do it in 3 steps. So first select the entire row, shift space, then use the shift and the arrow to the down or up to select more rows, and then shift alt and the right arrow in order to group the rows. And for the columns, it's almost the same. So obviously we use different formula for selecting an icon, so Control space. But the rest, as you can see, it's the same. So selecting more columns is shift and the arrow, in this case arrow to the right, and shift alt the arrow to the right to group the columns. In the case of ungrouping, we have the steps almost the same as in the case of grouping. The only difference is instead of having in the last step the arrow to the right, we have it left arrow here. And the same goes for columns. So exactly the same steps as we had for grouping, and the only difference is that we have here left arrow and not right arrow. So as you can see, very easy trick, but it's extremely useful, and you will see in the last part of the course that you can create a very nice looking analysis in Excel very fast by using this grouping and ungroup. Now let's talk about how you can move fast around the Excel using shortcuts. So one of the main shortcuts you're going to be using is the control and the arrows. So for example, if I wanted to go to the end of this table, I would use control and then the arrow to the right. If I want to go down, then control and down arrow, then left arrow and up arrow. So I can do circles like this very fast without too much effort. The other thing I can do is go around the sheets fast. So for this, you press control and then page up or down to move around the file. So like this. This is down and then move up. As you can see, you can go fast through the whole file without too much effort. And last but not least, I might be going from one file to another one. So for this, I would use the control tab. So this is the, as you can see, the full version, the nice looking. So marketing efficiency version 2 ready. And now we are in marketing efficiency version 2 empty. Looks different. And now let's go to the another one, which is the new, which we have opened in the previous step. You can also use the Alt tab that shows you all the files. So here you can see all the files, and I can pick to which one to go. So for example, I want to go to this one. So again, to the ready one. And another one, not that often used, but might make sense to know it for the bigger files. So you can use the control go, and then you can tell him where he should go. So for example, we can tell him to go to T5. And as you can see, he went to the analysis, or we can tell him now to move to Y5000. And as you can see, he has moved there. So let's make a short recap. So first of all, the main shortcuts you will be using to go around is control and the arrows. So down, up, to the left, and to the right. And the same goes for Mac. If you want to go to specific cell, then control go for the Windows and for the Mac. And then you put the exact address. So for example, as I have shown you, Y5000. And then he takes you to this specific cell. You can also go to next Excel. So for this, you use control tab. Or you can open the view with all the files and move to the next one, which is Alt tab. And it's actually something I would use more often. Now let's talk about hyperlinks and how to put them using a shortcut. So hyperlinks help you go around the Excel you have created the analysis extremely fast. So let's go to the ready-made version of the file we are playing with. And as you can see, we have put here everywhere hyperlinks. So if I press here, it will take me to a specific sheet where you have all the details, all the calculation. If I use the back, it will take me back to the master. So where
he's trying to build something what we call referencing. So you have multiple files, and by one click he's opening the file and going into it. That's how it works. So if you have a uniformity of softwares like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, you can build these hyperlinks within those documents rather than going on a web or something like that, sir. So this is really useful for you. So if you have a hyperlink within Microsoft Office, within Word, you can open an Excel sheet by default. You can open PowerPoint, or you can have an hyperlink in PowerPoint to open a Word or Excel file. This is really great advantage when you work with a bundled software.
I have all the links, so I can actually travel like this extremely fast without even using the shortcuts I've shown you to get around the file or the specific sheets. So this is very fast, and this is what we're gonna try to create in our file. So here we wanna have a link to Facebook ads. So in order to get this, you would need to create a hyperlink. So you can go into the menu, or you can just press Control K. And once you press it, you ask you where you should put the link on. So it can be some other file, it can be external source, or it can be just places in this document. So we choose the second option. And this is where he asks you where he should link this specific area to. So let's say we want to do it to the Facebook. In this way, if I press this, he should take me to the Facebook, and again, having this back helps us go around. I would recommend also in every sheet pushing this with back. So this is exactly done in the same way. So I have written the word back, and then I have used Control K to put the link here to the master. So once you are done with this, you just copy it everywhere in the sheets in the file. And in this way, you can get around from the master to specific sheets. Let's make a short recap. So in order to put hyperlinks, you just use the Control K in the case of Windows and PCs, whereas for the Mac, Apple, you would use the Command K. That's it for the time being. Check my online course.
So I believe it's it's not we just try to sum up everything. I think that's the overall thing. I'll share this video with you as well. Let's try to do something in Excel, right? So we've seen sum. So we can have we can add a few as well. So if I have let's say if I change this number, right, the sum gets changed accordingly. This is how automatically it happens, right? And we've seen we can do summation like here in a row as well. So you can add, if you have numbers, you can equal to, and if I click here, if I say plus, if I click here, if I say plus, I click here, I'm just adding these three, 1, 2, 3, and I'm not added this one. Okay, so this is how I can add. There's normally addition with step by step. So I have just selected the individual cell here. I can also select a cell from other place as well. Okay, and if I change this cell to something different, the data gets updated automatically. That's how it works in Excel, right? So this is, again, I'll repeat, this is a record, this is a category, this is a data entity, right? So this is what you call first name of fifth record. This is what I call phone number of fifth record. This I have called date of a seventh record. Does that make sense? Anybody have any confusion?
No, sir.
Okay, then this is what we call addition. This is what we call summation. And there's an auto sum kind of functionality which is included here. If you click there, it'll tell you how we do sum and all those things. And this is what we call functions. This sum is a function applied to 9D to add D2 to D7. Okay, this is how it's written, this is how it's created. And like this, there are many formulas available within Excel. Okay, I think I have removed those things. Yeah? Okay, I used to have many formulas, at least 15 odd formulas. So sum, addition, subtraction, division. So let's say, how do you divide? Equal to, I want to divide this with this. As simple as that. If I want to have a percentage of it, I can just multiply it by 100, right? That's how I do percentage. So this is my multiplication. The star is my multiplication. So this is how, if you know the formula, you can create by itself, or you can use formulas which are available there, right? So if I go there and, if I go to formulas, these are all formulas, insert of functions, then, you have all these different formula, play around it, and, you'll get across it, right? We will learn the formula as and when it comes to us. I can do subtraction also. This minus this is a subtraction. I've done addition. Let's do multiplication. This, oh, sorry. Now here, if I want to have multiplication, I'll say equal to here. I'll click on this. I'll do a star, and I'll do a number by which it should be get multiplied. So this is how it got multiplied. Now, again, what it said, it's basically put it into exponential. So if I want to have these things, I'll go to format cell. I'll say number. I don't want any decimal, so I can put it to 0. These are the decimals point. This is how it's done. So it's showing the number completely. Now, on this, if I want to add a symbol of dollar, right? So I'll say currency, and I have to have all these symbols which I can use, and I've selected dollars. So this is a USD, right? So could you see it's got labeled as a dollar symbol. So again, to apply the same thing to other cell, I'll just say format printer. Could you see this format printer? I'll select this, and I'll just select all these things where the formatting has to be copied. Could you see that all these dollar symbols have been appeared, and they also given the decimal place. So this is how I apply the formatting to each and every cell by applying format printer. And this is how I work on Excel day in, day out, right? And I told you about, these are the basic calculation, right? We've seen about how to select, row, column, how to insert row, column, and all those things. We also, seen the labeling the way we use in Excel, right? So I'll just close this thing. Let's go a step ahead. Then let's try to, let me share the presentation. Here's the presentation. Okay. So we've understood, what is row, record, column, type of item, cross of row and column is a cell. This is the most, technical things we need to remember. This is how it's get referred. Okay. Now let's try to understand charts. What is a chart? Chart is a kind of, a good concise view of a table. So we are trying to represent a table in a, pictorial format to make it more, more presentable in the least amount of space. You're trying to tell quite a few things, and there are various what I can say numbers from which we are going to create these charts. Okay, let's try to understand chart first, and then we'll move on to the other things. Okay, now these are normally used wherever you want to present something. Okay, there are some numbers, and presenting numbers is a kind of rude way or a crude way to basically present it to a dignitary. So what we do, we create these charts. We try to present these charts, and we try to understand different categories you like to measure, different groups which you want to present with a given chart, right? So let's try to understand how charts are prepared. And there's a good video for it. There are normally basic 10 charts we use in Excel, right? So let's try to understand how this 10 can be created, and we could play around with this basically, and we'll try to create these charts so that we could be a really great presenter in terms of understanding how to create chart and all. Could you see this screen where I have column chart, bar chart, line chart, pie chart, donut chart, combo chart, tree map chart, and Pareto chart? Normally the best is the pie chart. Could you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, normally we use pie chart. 99%, but there are other chart also. So sometimes somebody wants to use it, and that's how we basically learn these things. Okay, let's try to understand what are the charts and how we can make them, and let's try to make one chart by ourselves as well.
E-lesson. I'm your guru, and in this video I'm going to tell you how to make 10 most used charts in Excel. Yes, in one video you will learn how to make 10 most used charts in Excel. So we'll start with the column chart, bar chart, line chart, pie chart, donut chart, combo chart. This is where it starts getting interesting. Combo chart, tree map chart, Pareto chart, and in the end, I'll tell you how to make sparkline chart and sparkline column chart also. So making charts and graphs in Excel is very, very easy. You just need to know what kind of data you have and what you want to show. So let's start making our charts from here, and this is the data I have. So if you insert a chart, you select your data and go to home. Go to insert, and from here choose column chart. There are multiple type of column chart. Since this is a simple video, I've taught the regular common charts. If you want to know more about these charts, you can go to my website myelesson.org, and there are comprehensive videos on these charts. And we were able to create a column chart. You can edit it by changing its name, column chart, like this. This section opens fill, no fill. I'll be explaining this later with other topics. And now let's create which is the second chart we have, is a bar chart. All right. Now, when to create what kind of chart? I have written a complete article on this. You can go ahead and read it in the description below this video. All right. And do also like and comment. Do also like this video if you like what I have written and made, and also comment upon the content of this video. So now I'm trying to make a bar chart. I'll select my data, go to insert, go over this area and choose bar chart. And here is my bar chart. In a bar chart, I will tell you another trick. Like, you click on the chart, anywhere in the chart, and these two sections open, design. You can use design section to change the design of your chart like this. In every chart, I'll tell you one option. All right. So we have created two charts. Now let me create a line chart. This is my data. I go to insert and I go to line chart over here, and I choose a line chart. And here is my line chart. I'm going to JAWS. Reduce this a little bit. This is my line chart, and in this video, in this chart, I'll tell you how you can change the colors from here. All right, you can go ahead and work with the legends from here. Where do you want to show the legends? I want to show the legends on, say, bottom, more options. So I say on top, okay? And I want to show data labels. And data labels. These are my data labels, and I want to show them above. Now I'll go to the regular size. And these is my data labels. I was able to insert data label. Now, what next chart do we have online is a pie chart. All right, pie chart. Here is a pie chart for us. Select the data, go to insert, go to pie, and here is your pie chart. See? Well, I can go on and keep filing them over here. So this is your pie chart. Now in pie chart, I'll tell you a trick. Go to format, and from here you can go ahead and choose various colors to fill the shapes. Whatever you have selected, you can format your chart from here. See, what colors do you want in here? You can choose them from here. You can choose a specific color for a section or for the complete stuff. Where it's just one section I want, this is one section I'm bothered about, then only in this section will I change the color. Say, let me make it blue. In this section, I want it to be red. In this section, I'm making a Google. And Google logo is green, yellow, red, and blue. So in this section, I will insert green, and here is our Google. See? So let me pull it down. We should never pull somebody down. It's just a chart that we are trying to pull down. Okay? And which is the next chart we have online? This is a donor chart made in a very similar manner as a pie chart. Select the data, go to insert, go to donor chart from here, and your donor chart is ready. In this one, I will tell you how to copy paste the chart. So you select the chart, click on copy, go to a new sheet, right click and click on paste. Your new chart is ready. It is linked to the same data. That's another way. All right, and now I believe we are moving on to interesting things. Combo charts. Combo charts are great if you have to show 2-3 kinds of information. Like I want to show the sales, like we are showing over here, along with the target. All right. So how will I do that? I'll select this complete data now. Go to insert and go to combo charts over here. All right. This is a combo chart. You can learn more about it in detail on my website, myelesson.org. So this is a combo chart. So this is the 3000 target line that you see over here. And now you can see this one is this far away from here. This one has exceeded it. This is just there, almost there. And in combo chart, I'll tell you that you can have these lines, etc., removed. See, click on those lines and they get removed. Click over here and they get removed. Just have your basic data looking clean, extremely clean. Right? This was a combo chart for you. And let's create a tree map chart, a beautiful chart which shows the content of your data in form of square and rectangular blocks, something similar to what a donor chart does in a round way. So this is my data. I select it. I go to insert. I go to recommended chart. I go to, this is my tree chart. And here is the data. I will go ahead and place it. Now if you try to reduce the size, it will retain its symmetry. If I change the data over here, say, if I make it say 800, it's changed. It's a beautiful chart to work with. Also, if I go ahead and remove this layout from here, and again it will try to occupy most space in the section and organize itself accordingly. That's the beauty of this chart. And then comes the Pareto chart. Extremely difficult to make in the earlier versions of Excel, but very easy to make in this version of Excel now. So let's select our range, sales data, go to insert, and from here you can choose a Pareto chart. Here is your Pareto chart in the histogram. So it tells you which sections are corresponding with 100%, 80%, 90% of your data. For people who want to know more about Pareto charts, please visit my website, myelesson.org, and you will understand what exactly a Pareto chart can do for you in a presentation and how extremely pleased your boss will be. And now coming to our last charts, which are spark line charts and spark column charts. Beautiful charts we have. So I want to create a spark line chart. So for that, you have to ensure that your data is not more than one row. It has to be a row, not a column. It can be as long as possible. The row can be as long as possible, but it has to be a row, and only one thing can be shown over there, like sales. So I've selected this data, go to insert, go to Sparkline. It will ask you choose your location. So I will hover over here and say I want my chart to be located over here. It comes over here. Click OK and my chart is ready. See, this graph is now, chart is located in one single cell. These are hovering over a range of cells. Sparkline chart is located within a cell. See, if I click on a chart, it says chart 5, but if I click on a Sparkline chart, it says cell number B31. I've explained more about Sparkline charts in my video on Sparkline chart on myinvestor.org. In a similar manner, we can insert a Sparkline column chart also. So we go to our data, go to insert and go to Spark column chart. Select where you want to have your chart. I want it here. Click OK and your Spark column chart is ready. Isn't it amazing? Now there's a one last trick. Gee, what I'll do. This is my data. I'll select it. Do nothing. Just press F11. Chart is ready automatically in full screen size. F11. You need to press F11. All right. That's the key, the top key, function key. And from here, you click over here and change the design, change the layout. From here, you want to change the colors, you can change them from here. You want to change the layout, you can have the numbers on the top. Anything you want to change the chart type, you can do that from here. Make it a line chart, make it a pie chart, area chart, whatever you want. Cool, right? So this is how we go ahead and make these 10 most used charts in Excel. So I hope you like this video. If you
Any question for me? Anybody have any confusion?
No, sir.
Great. I know it's not very simple because if you're trying to do one thing one time, you know, if you're not tried earlier, but if you're trying for the first time, it's a bit difficult. Yeah, let's have a bit of practice. It's as simple as that. Let's have certain numbers here. Let's say Ravindra, and we have, let's say 9,000.
Sir, we cannot see your screen. Your Excel
Oh,
sheet.
sorry. Yeah, let me share that thing. I'm just trying to draw one chart just to show you how it is, how easy it is. So let me open my Excel sheet. Yes. Okay. Could you see now? I'm just trying to
Yes,
create.
sir. Yeah.
I'm just trying to create a chart with some numbers. So let's put some numbers. 6,000, 3,000. Oh, this is 30,000, right? Sorry, 30,000. This is like 5,000, 4, 5. Let's give a 60,000. Let's copy this, paste. Same thing he did with certain things. So let's see, this is a what I can say, MARKS marks. These are top level marks. Okay, let's try to what you can say, label these things. Let's try to do these things. Let's try to give some other thing. Let's try to bold it, center it, and let's try to move it to the corner so that we can basically. Okay, now I'll just put a border to these guys. I've just created a simple table. Let's say marks obtained and the top marks, blah 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 blah. Let's try to create a chart of this. Now just select this. as you know he told, and press F11. It's not working. Oh no, okay. It's basically, I think that function key. Okay, could you see what it created? It created a chart in a separate sheet. This is where I have my data. He created, I pressed it a couple of times, so I'll just delete this sheet. Otherwise delete it, ask for my permission and all those things. See the things. So this is what the charts created on fly, and then I can select whatever way I want to represent it, right? Whatever you feel right. I can select the titles, saying just click here and try to say it as delete these things. MERKS marks.
So, sir, just with F11, it is automatically creating
Come again,
the
please.
bar graphs on the other tab.
No, the first page, your Excel sheet.
I can't get your question, ma'am.
Uh, just by selecting the data and pressing F11, it is creating the bar graph on the other tab, right?
Right.
Just by selecting the data and pressing the F11.
F11. That's all. If you want to
So it
create,
will
let's say,
create. So by default, it will create those bar graphs.
yes, these bar charts, and these are the
Bar
most
graph.
used. Believe me, because this gives you a comparative idea, right? The top and then the bottom, and you can have all those lines. Let's try to understand. The others are also very simple. I just selected these two, and go to insert, and these are all charts. Could you see my mouse on the top?
Yeah.
Okay, and then let's go to pie chart. I want to have a 3D pie chart. Could you see it? It's that simple. And if I want to have labels, I can add labels, data labels to it. I can change the legend if I want. What I would really like to play around this thing, so that you can be more satisfied, because then you can have those clear understanding of how you are doing it. Okay, and to have something like uh, something like trying to what I can say, build something meaningful. What I'll try to suggest last time is basically try to build an expense sheet. Let's try, let me try to basically do it for you. Let's say if you want to build an expense sheet for 2020. Okay, and let's say Jan, Feb. Okay, now when I type these months, and if I just click here and I pull it out, right? Could you see? So I have all my months here. 1, 2, 3, and I can just pull this 1, 2, 3, 4 down, so that I can use this thing. Could you see how fast I can do? So what I'm trying to do, I'm creating an expense sheet for 2020. I can label these things, or color this thing the way I want. You can color it, because coloring gives a really, what you can say,
Really
good view in terms of this thing. Now I want to have an expense for, let's say, my cell phone. Okay, so I had paid some, let's say, $300, $320, $450, $200, and I'll just copy these things basically, because I'm really bad at typing, so I've created this thing. Now these are all dollar amounts. So what I'll say, go here and say number or currency, and these are dollars, so 2 decimal places. Okay, these are the dollars. These are like cell phone expenses, right? Then I'll go grocery, grocery expenses. So in groceries, I spend 450, 500, 230, 600, then 540, and I'll just copy these things. Let's 700 and 900, because there was a Christmas, so I spent a bit more on in December, and so on and so forth. So okay, now I've created the expense sheet, right? Now if I want to have something like chart for these things, so what I'll do, I'll select this thing, and I'll go to insert. I'll create a, let's say, line chart. Yeah, this is my line chart, right? So what I say, this is like self phone expense. So what I can do, I can understand the overall how my cell phone payments were kind of did these things. How I spend on a cell phone. Now I can choose whatever chart I want to go for. That's depend on me, right? I can go with a bar, and there are 3D bar. Could you see how good it looks, frankly speaking, right? I can go and add another series also. I'll just select this and delete this. I'll select these many things, and I can select the headers also. Let's try to see what if the headers are selected. I'm going to have these type of charts, and I'll try to do these things, right? So could you see the difference? Basically what he tried to do, there's a cell phone and there's a grocery expense. So maximum I spent 1200 in November, and I can analyze this thing from this pictorial thing quite effectively. Okay, so let's take this as a homework. Let's try to build my expense chart for my household and try to plot at least 3 or 4 type of different charts, so that I can be ready to present this thing. Now I can just select here, I can copy here, I can paste it in a new sheet, and whatever data I change here will get affected there as well. Or I can present or paste it in a let me show you in my presentation also. With my presentation, I'll insert a slide. Come on, new slide. The color got skewed a bit, but yes, I can have color differences. Oh, these are with the numbers and all. Could you see that? Means it was that simple. It takes hardly few minutes, right? Could you understand this?
Yes.
My 2020 EXPN SAS. Sorry. And I can give that chart title and all those things. Even I can remove these things if I don't want. I'll just select, delete, so it's get deleted. Okay, I can select the colors as well. I don't know how to change colors here. Okay, here I believe. So I can have a gradient fill, and from let's say this thing. Okay, there's a transfer, or I can select this, or I can select this thing, and oh, come on, I need to go to a field, color, can have these things. No. Okay, it lets me allow to basically plan it in a shape. I think this is the best I can have right now. So play around with this. So you can actually plan these expenses. Try to analyze your own. You don't have to share actual numbers with me, but the most important part is try to present this number in a in a Microsoft PowerPoint. That's the most important learnings what I want you to have on your own. Is that simple? Could you do that thing? Could you think we have the data enough for us to do something like this?
We can come up with any like we did it for our other homework, right? We can have like
Yes.
some office expense or a doctor
Yeah,
office, something just random, pick some random date
and try at least 3 chart whatever you like, because I believe you all have Excels with you, Microsoft Excel, so you can play around and you can build those charts whatever you like, right? Let me try to share those how many what's that, how many type of these things we have. Come on, okay, I'm going to put it down. So if you go to insert, in the insert you have all those different type of charts and views here, so you can have try different thing whatever you like, try to put it in that scenario. Okay. Sounds easy?
Yes.
Okay, great, no problem. Then let's let's go ahead with the presentation. Where am I? Yes, this one. Okay, so this is a simple thing we've created, and then there are something called pivot tables or pivot charts. or dashboards are basically just a collection of data where you try to portray it in terms of good, bad, or ugly, or those kind of gradation, just to present it to a senior management. That's why dashboards are basically kind of very favorite tool of every analyst. So dashboard is nothing but a table with bubbles, various colors associated with it, depending on various grades of good, bad, or okay, or any of those grades, whatever decided by the presentation parties. And that's how we normally build these things, right? Just I want to call this Excel advanced because these are a bit typical irritating things which we might need to do sometimes, but not always. So this is again a kind of a bit trickier to do as far as pivot tables goes, where I want to use lots of formula. I want to present it in a way wherever there's a changes on fly, and I can cope up with those changes within my Excel sheet. That's how I want to make it. So this is more like automation and giving Excel to a next level. That's how the pivot chart works normally. Okay, let's try to understand how we can basically build a pivot table, right? Let's try to where's that video? Even if you have never created a pivot tables, please don't what you can say, please don't get uh, don't get threatened by it. But yes, it's not very easy, but yeah, it's a symbol thing which we might need to learn. Take it as an what I can say, an extra learning what we have to do in case if we have some something like that came up our way. Yes, let's try to understand a kind of introduction to the pivot table, so that we know what you mean by pivot tables.
Welcome to Excel.
Wait a minute, let me share that video with you, and then we can take it up from there. Could you see the screen?
Campus. My name is John, and this is the second video in a series on pivot tables and dashboards. In the first video, we met Andy and learned about a project his boss has given him. He needs to take this sheet of data and turn it into a nice-looking dashboard. We learned how to create our first pivot table and pivot chart. In this video, we're going to create a few more pivot tables and learn how they can help us answer questions about our data.
Pardon me. I believe, I have started the second one.
Part one, yeah.
Yes, pardon me for that. My bad. Let me share this again.
Welcome to Excel Campus. My name is John, and this is the first in a series of videos about pivot tables. So I want to introduce you to my friend Andy. Andy is new on the job, and he has been asked by his boss to create some reports and ultimately a dashboard for an upcoming presentation. All Andy was given is this giant sheet of data and a list of reports that his boss needs. Although he's excited about the challenge, Andy is wondering how he's going to turn this data into a nice-looking dashboard. Of course, he wants to save the day and become the superhero of the office. So what Andy really needs is to learn how to use pivot tables. In this video series, I'm going to show you how we're going to solve Andy's problem. We're going to take this sheet of data and turn it into a nice-looking interactive dashboard using pivot tables and pivot charts. We're going to build each of these reports.
Could you imagine, sorry. Oh, come on. These are what they call dashboards. So we have, it's a kind of collection of charts, and then you have certain, selection criteria on which these dashboards changes. So this total combination is what you call dashboard. So dashboard is just a data representation, a pictorial data representation with a gradation. That's what the definition of dashboard is. There could be question in the interview, what is dashboard? So dashboard is just a pictorial representation of a data, so that it's very easier to understand to business dignitaries or to anybody for that matters. So it's a pictorial representation of a data. That's what it at the end of the day.
To a nice looking interactive dashboard using pivot tables and pivot charts. We're going to build each of these reports using pivot tables and then bring it all together to create the dashboard. And don't worry if you think this looks complicated. Pivot tables are very easy to use and don't require any complex formulas or VBA macros. Just simple drag and drop.
Throughout this video series, I'm also going to be showing you an add-in I developed called PivotPal. PivotPal makes it easier to work with some aspects of pivot tables and will save you a lot of time. But you don't need to have PivotPal to create these pivot tables and dashboards. Everything you need is already built into Excel. All right, so in this first video, we're going to cover the basics of building a pivot table. I'm going to show you how to create this pivot table here that's a summary of revenue by sales rep, and also this pivot chart over here, which just displays that information visually. So we know that Andy has this set of data to work with. This is really all he's been given. And this is what we're going to use to create our pivot tables. This will be considered our source data. And before you start building a pivot table, it's a good idea to familiarize yourself with the source data, especially if you haven't seen it before. So this data was exported from our general ledger software, and basically it contains order details for December. So each row in the data here contains information for a specific order. So you can see we have the order date, some customer information here, the salesperson, region, we got some shipping information as I scroll over. And we also have some product information and then some information about the price of the product, the revenue, quantity, all that stuff. So it's good information. The other thing you want to do is make sure that your data is in a tabular format. And that just means that you have a row of headers here at the top of the data set. And each of these headers describes the column of data below. And I provided a checklist so you can go over this in more detail. The other things you want to look out for is that you want to make sure there's no blank columns within your header row here and no blank rows within your data set, especially if you have a column of dates. You want to make sure there's no blank rows or cells in your date column. You also want to look out for any merged cells. A lot of times when you're exporting data, the software will automatically merge some cells together. And you want to make sure you unmerge all the cells. So once your data is cleaned up, and this data looks pretty good, we go to the Insert tab on the ribbon and then click the Pivot Table button. And that'll bring up this Create Pivot Table window. And basically it's asking us to select the table or range. Now you can see that Excel has automatically detected the range for me. And that's because I had a cell selected inside the pivot table, or I'm sorry, inside the data set before I clicked the Create Pivot Table button. So as long as you do that, select a cell inside the range, click this button, and Excel will automatically detect the range for you. If it doesn't, you can just click this blue button over here and go and select your range. The next step is that we want to choose where we're going to put the pivot table. In this case, put it on a new worksheet. So I'll go ahead and click OK. And now you'll see that's automatically added a new sheet to our workbook here and created this pivot table area. You'll also notice over on the right side that this pivot table fields list has appeared. And this is basically the window we're going to use to create the pivot table. So here's a list of all the fields in our data set here. And then down below is the areas that we can drag those fields into to create a pivot table report. So the first thing I'm going to do is find that salesperson field, and here it is here. I'm going to drag that into the rows area. So I'm left click and hold, drag it into the rows area of the pivot table and drop it there. And you'll notice now that in the pivot table, it's listed our sales reps in the rows area of the pivot table. So each row contains our sales rep name. Now I want to add the revenue to this report as well, so I can get a summary of revenue. So I'm going to find this revenue field here in the field list and then drag it into the values area of the pivot table. When I drag it into the values area and drop it there, you'll notice that Excel has automatically calculated the sum of revenue for each rep that's listed in the rows area of the pivot table. So this is really the power and the magic of the pivot table. It is automatically calculated the sum of revenue for each rep just almost instantly as we drag the field into the values area. And it's a good idea to get an understanding of what actually happens there. So let me try and explain this a little better. So here we can see Andrew has sales of 12,368 here in the pivot table. And basically what the pivot table has done, so I go back to the data tab, I'm going to filter the salesperson field here for Andrew. So we're just seeing the sales that Andrew's done. And you can see here that he's done 8 sales in the month of December. Now if I go over to the rows column, and I'm just going to select these revenue numbers here, you can see Here's our sum of revenue, 12,368 for Andrew. So basically the pivot table has done this filter and calculation for us. It's basically filtered the data set for each rep, each unique item in that field, and then calculated the sum of revenue for each.
Let's try to do this thing. And I don't want to complicate your life right now, because I know it's a bit of heavy stuff whenever you talk about calculation, where you talk about, basically having this functionality inbuilt in Excel sheet and do work for you, right? Yes, this is a kind of, advanced sheet and, advanced Excel. So normally what I would really love, I'll share this video with you so that you can play around. But as a major homework, let's try to build certain tables in terms of trying to build data of whatever you like, as ma'am said clearly, but it should have at least 2 or 3 columns, 2 or 3 type of records, and it should have at least 5 or 6 rows records, so that we can plot a considerable meaning chart or a graph, whatever you believe are the right, and at least try to plot 2 or 3 type of these things so that you will understand how to choose one from others as well. And we'll try to present present this thing in the Microsoft PowerPoint. So if you can paste this in a Microsoft PowerPoint, that'll be that'll be the best thing you can do. Okay, anybody have any question for me at this moment?
So we create this in Excel and chart and then put it in the PowerPoint?
PowerPoint, yes, that's right. Because that's what we do as an analyst. Whenever we are on the job, we don't normally try to explain him in a Excel sheet. We try to explain to the team in the PowerPoint. And yes, these bars and graphs are not dynamic whenever you paste it in a PowerPoint, because they are detached, right? They are detached from Excel. You are copying the complete details in some other application.
Okay.
So that's how it works, frankly speaking. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we'll try.
And I'm going to share even the pivot table recording also, video also, so you can have a look at that as well. If you can, well and good. Otherwise, we'll go through these pivot tables in our next session. Okay.
Okay.
Array, what's the time right now? Oh, it's 10:41, right? I almost I started at okay, no problem. So should we stop here?
Okay.
Yes,
I'll
sir.
have some time to work on this Excel so that you can get yourself ready. And I'm going to share this video shortly on the WhatsApp group as well, so you can have a look at that as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Thanks. I have another call with the team, so I need to also be in a rush. So okay. So let's stop here for today, and let's try to understand this Excel, try to play around, and try to create a couple of charts so that we can discuss in depth how it's to be presented and all those things.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Anybody have any question for me?
Good night, everybody.
Okay, we'll have question tomorrow. Don't worry.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Have a good night. Bye. Take care.
Thank you, Ravi.